Hello, everyone. Welcome to another scintillating edition of Palest Drew Talks About Shit for Fun. Today we will discuss Fraudo, who has a few elements to him that are kind of hard to show. You have to kind of explain it. And so we'll take his weapons off. Also, good note here. The thumb, like, you can lift it up and then rotate it forward, but if you do anything else other than that, it's liable to pop off. And I had it pop off rather explosively on me, and then I had to spend a few minutes trying to find it. So just make sure, like, you might want to have it angled like this for when he's in fist mode. But to put it away, just make sure you lift it up and then rotate it back and then put it down, and it won't pop off on you. So far, I'm just by myself here. So I guess I'll go slow. I have some things I can attend to. Apologies to people who watch it later and they're like, "Ah, man, why don't you just get on with it?" Well, these people need to show up. Good morning from Vietnam. Good morning to you. I believe you're new to my live stream. How are things in Vietnam? Other side of the world, so what is it, like 7 o'clock in the morning there or something? I'm just going to go ahead and start transforming this guy. Lift my camera up a little bit. Just because there's not much to discuss. All this stuff is pretty easy. You collapse the arm and you put away the fist. You know the deal. Pretty pedestrian design there. It's just, well, not pedestrian, but just, it's the standard. The old flip out a flap and put the fist inside the forearm and close the flap. Which I guess makes it part sparking. That's disappointing, isn't it? Put the feet together. It's funny, I saw the recent pictures of this guy in leg mode, like with the whole robot put together, and the feet are a little small, like the what's supposed to be like the big mode feet, a little small. But fortunately they have that little upgrade kit that kind of clean things up a little bit, although it kind of detracts from their whole all built-in concept. But hello, Darth Clone 2 and Shark 7. Hello, hello. One of the big things I wanted to get out of the way that I told a couple of people about that asked about it is how do you separate, how do you pull this apart? You don't want to pry here. I mean, you can probably get like a razor blade or something and get it in that joint and pry, but, or like a knife or something, you know. This kind of knife, but you don't want to do that. That's like a really visible part of the robot. Now the other option is to like kind of grab hold of this and really pull on it, but the sudden movement will, you know, cause a lot of stress on the joint. Now what I discovered from this mode, I'll just move this out of the way. Really your goal is to pry next to this purple block here. Now I like this because it's like a nice smooth piece of metal. People use plastic, and I should probably use plastic, so I'm not going to recommend using metal, but I like these nail clippers because it's not going to scratch anything, I don't think. Now, you do have to kind of pry against the wheel when it's in this position, but it's not too big a deal. Just the goal is to get something in there and then twist it. And see, it pops loose nice and easy. Some guy asked me how I did the video so smooth when it's so hard to pop those, and it's really not that bad. That's weird. Ah, I know what that is. There's a trim plate. I should find it. There's a screw covering plate. I should really glue it on. It came off before and it took me, I don't know, 5 minutes to figure out where the hell it came from. But that can happen, apparently. So the only downside is if you glue it on, then you're never going to get it off. It's a flat plate. Anyway, so we got in next to the purple block and we twisted. And that gives you more than enough purchase where you can get a fingernail on the edge of this and pull these the rest of the way open. So that is part of the secret of how to do that. A lot of people would have this out, like have this tire go down as a separate step. Mostly because it kind of frees up the shoulder so you can pop it. But if you follow my technique, then you don't need to mess around with that. So I like to just kind of, when I put this together, just go ahead and trim it all up so it's flat. Just go ahead and get it. We'll lift this up. We're headed towards the primordial, as I call it. That midway point where it's exactly halfway transformed as a triple changer. You have to kind of leave this out, like I did in the stop motion. And it helps to tilt the head forward a little bit. If the head is tilted back, it'll actually get caught as you rotate it around, so tilt it forward. And a little note about this little bumper doohickey. In both leg mode and robot mode, this hinge, whatever it's for, don't know yet, but this hinge needs to be facing like the bottom of the Jeep. Only in Jeep mode do you turn it around like that. So, we'll go to leg mode first. All right. So now we can put this in place now that we flip the head over. Let's catch up on some comments. Shark says, "Hi, how are you doing on this miserable Wednesday?" I'm sorry your Wednesday is miserable. Oh, because it's cold in Missouri? I guess that makes sense. The plate has fallen off of mine too. Glad I found it before I vacuum cleaned my floor. Indeed, Darth Clone 2. Yeah, mine fell off in my lap. Like usually I just sit on my sofa and try out a new figure, and I really shouldn't, where I should put down like a blanket or something to catch bits. But I heard it clink and I was like, what is that? So I had to stand up and it, fell on the floor. I'm just glad it didn't get lost in my sofa. That would be super annoying. It probably would have taken me like a couple of weeks to be like, wait a minute, there's a plate, not a plate. That would really bug me. So watch those thumbs and watch those thigh plates if you own this figure. Now, one of the bummers about transforming this from like Jeep mode directly to leg mode is you have to turn this around. And you might think, oh, well, the arm's already in. But the way this tab here, right there, slides into that slot, you have to disengage the arms so that you can rotate this. And then you have to re-engage the arms. So it's a bit of a bummer. But in a minute when we go to Jeep mode, I screwed up. You need to get these out of the way. I missed some steps here and there because when I'm doing the stop motion, I really have to get it straight because I don't want to have to rewind and start over with a segment. So these actually tab in to little pegs there. Funny thing, this hood has like these flaps that fold. Well, that's nice. Except, as far as I can tell, when it's in... I'll try to remember to do this when I go back to robot mode so I can show you where it binds. But, when you're in Jeep mode or when you're in leg mode, they're open. And I find that when I'm in robot mode, I still want them open. So when are you ever going to fold these flaps? I can't imagine. But we're going to put that there. Like I said, leg mode, this is the reverse of Jeep mode. Jeep mode is the only one like this, which is why the primordial form has it down, because you always go with the majority. You know, so if 2 modes on a triple changer have something some way. I'm not sure if this was in the directions, but I just kind of noticed them as I was playing with the figure, and I was like, what are they for? And then I was like, ah, I see. Because they are for these 2 slots on the bottom of the plate. And so they kind of help hold the thing at the right position. And then you flip this down. And lock it. It's very nice. Very nice. It helps to actually get the windshield out of the way, because these little tabs. Now these lock in really good. These are actually locks for the slide of the legs. We'll get to them in a second, because the first thing we need to do is do like a double hinging to reduce the length of the legs a little bit. So it goes back, and then the whole thing comes down. And there's actually slots here that actually lock on those knee tabs. We can see them again when we go back to robot mode. But we do need to slide this whole thing down, and so it helps to get this out of the way, because this is a lock for when it's in the down mode. So this needs to be freed up. And then these tabs lock it in robot mode. And so now the whole thing, and you know, unless you get all that unlocked and out of the way, it helps to have these not all the way up. In fact, you want them to almost be like that, because otherwise they bind and get in the way. But now you can just slide the whole thing down nice and neat. And tab it in. And then these kind of park here, which is why I say it's helpful to open the windshield up so it's not in the way. In the stop motion, I didn't bother because it's parts parking. It drives me nuts. These are going to come down, but we don't have room yet because we need to extend the legs. So this is very reminiscent of the arm extension on MP01, the original MP Prime. But pretty easy to pull them out, and then you continue folding them over to fill in the top. So they lock real nice. And then we can lower this back flap. We can lower the heel spurs just to give his feet a little more heft. They really should have come up with a way to make the toes, the whole thing bigger, but I can see why that would be a challenge for them. So if you really want the full experience, you're going to have to get this add-on kit they've already announced to make the feet bigger. But you get a pretty nice leg mode. As far as I can tell, the way the thing's going to link together is there's a nice slot there. And so something's going to slide into that slot, and then maybe you can even close this off after it so that it's in this slot here. I have no idea what this is for. I noticed that the recently shown Brawl, the tank, has a similar sort of thing sticking up. And it hinges for no reason I can discern. I don't know why this has a hinge here, but it does. So it's left to the future to discover why that little bit has to be there. Maybe someone has some clever notion about that. Catching up on comments. Hi, new here. What's with the gloves? Just to keep fingerprints off of this. Presentation. I don't know. Also, nice lighting setup. Yeah, I'm just... how do I show this? It's really dark. I have the camera tuned down so that it kind of approximates my stop motion setup. But I have a black sheet back there. And as long as it's out of focus and it's pretty dark, like from my point of view, that sheet's lit up pretty good. But I dim everything down and the focal plane is about here. And so the sheet is out of focus and darker than the foreground stuff, and you get a nice black background. Oh, you mean Onslaught's like MMC name? Shark? Yeah, I'm not quite sure. It could be looked up. Still, yes, still better than stressing the entire arm. Incursus, yeah, indeed. Hey, Moody Me Now gets to catch a Peeless Drew live stream. Congratulations. Right? Yeah, I mean, this Darth Clone 2 was pointing out that, you know, it's fairly simple, but it's pretty ingeniously designed, and I do like it. It turns into a leg, and it's not just a Jeep hooked up. Like, it transforms into a leg. It's a triple changer. These MMC's the best. Best third party. I mean, there's some geniuses over at like DX9 and Unique Toys coming up with some really clever designs. But MMC is just very consistent about having really good G1 designs in particular. But, you know, I did their Calidus. You know, they have some interesting comic book designs and stuff that they do. But let's try to get this thing over to Jeep mode. We can talk about how to pry this apart from this point of view. So we'll just get this out of the way. So here's the trick. We want to separate these arms, and if you just, you know, you can kind of grab like there and there and there and give it a pull. But I hate how much that, like the snap at the end stresses. It's hard to stop yourself once you pull it hard enough to do that. So what I do is I create a little bit of a gap there. I stick in my handle or whatever spludger you want to use, and then just a simple twist pops the joint loose. Pops it super easy. So it doesn't have to be a lot of force, doesn't have to be a lot of stress, especially for this sort of frustrating move the arms out of the way just so we can rotate the waist and then put the arms back bit. But you know, they just move out of the way, and then we can rotate this, and then we can just put them right back. So not too hard to do if you pry in the right spot. You always want to go as close as you can to where the joint is, and the joint you're fighting is right here, this slide. So getting this in there down to the bottom and then popping it is what makes it easy to do. And I don't think you'll get any stress on the figure doing it that way. You're welcome. So now we can recollapse this, but I think first what I'm going to do is you have to kind of, I cheated a little on the video because I didn't show like the whole getting the steering wheel out of the way, but you have to kind of get out of the way to flip that up. That's like the front of the seat, and these are the backs of the seat. And then we can collapse this down, if it will. Ah, see, I screwed myself. You got to get this stuff out of the way. That's not technically in the way, but now we can peg it in, put the seat backs in place, collapse the giant foot, put away the heel spurs, lock the leg like that, put those away. They don't really lock, they're only for robot mode. And then this kind of collapses all the way down and tucks underneath. And then the bumper turns around. Again, Jeep is the only mode, as far as I can tell. I really looked at the pictures and the instructions to like make sure that I had that straight in my mind, but it is supposed to be hinged this way when it's in leg mode. And then you get these out of the way. Actually, I correct myself. These are good to leave out. Now they're funny little joints. They're on a pin, but they also have like a little bit of a slide to them. So they rotate down, but when you rotate them up, they lock into position. And it gives you a little leverage if you leave them locked, because there's a little double hinge there. And what you're trying to do is work it back. I'll try to show you. You're trying to work it back down to that position so that you can tilt the foot a little bit so you can lock these tabs. You can see two tabs there. And now we can put the heel spurs away and put the top away. And now we got a Jeep. Oh, and you got to get out the there's like a front, this covers the slot that the leg mode uses. So it gives the Jeep a flatter front. And now we got a Jeep. Comments. Yeah, instructions are always terrible, Darth Clone. They're a poor representation for. I mean, I could do 2D instructions better than they do them. Yeah, but I mean, the main point of the add-on set for me would be making the combined mode feet bigger, because they really are kind of tiny. Yeah, Onslaught's chest mode and Kurzus's chest mode is really cool. Okay, yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, Bruticus's head should go over Onslaught's head, so that makes sense. Hey, are you going to be getting New Age's Starscream? I kind of am. My favorite Seeker is Skywarp, and it's not because of any kind of character reason. I just like black and purple. So, if I had to get one of them, I decided to get Skywarp. So when Skywarp comes out, probably pretty soon, because they probably have them all ready to go. When Skywarp comes out, then I'll be shooting that because it looks really clever. Do you have Fans Toys spoiler? Or are you sick of them? I'm not a big fan of Fans Toys. Their transformations are unpleasant and ad hoc. You know. There's very few moments when I handled Fans Toys figures. I don't actually own any Fans Toys figures, but there's very few moments during a Fans Toys transformation where I thought, "Oh, that's clever." There are some. They occasionally do something clever, but man, Fans Toys. Don't even get me started. They drive me nuts. Poor design work. You know, they're just Fans Toys is like, oh, we need this to go here later, so we'll put a chain on it. We'll just have a chain hold it together. I mean, they've never been that bold to use a chain, but they'll use like little flimsy linkages. And when you're halfway through it, you know, you don't know. It's hard to tell where things are supposed to go because it's just not very logical. So I don't have any intention of getting any Fans Toys stuff. I just don't like them. I can't recommend them. They're beautiful figures. They look nice in robot mode, and they look nice in vehicle mode. Just in between, it looks like a kitchen junk drawer, as I like to say. They're kind of dumb. Poor designs. Although I did like a few things about Road King, especially how like somehow they managed to get the entire tractor trailer to turn into a robot. I was like, well, that's fun. That's interesting. So I'll give some marks to Road King. But even then, like the whole cab section was like, you know, flippity floppity mess. I don't understand why their designs have to be so sloppy. These seats are kind of a pain in the ass to get started. Yeah, I must have gotten a scratch on it at some point. I must have done it wrong at some point. I do it wrong so that you don't have to do it wrong. Just saying. And you can walk the knee out, lock these tabs in, and then we can stand the knee up without having to fight with it. And we'll put the little bumper away. I do it off camera, but I don't like to. All right, lift this up, and we're back to this again. Just making a little gap, pulling for a little gap, and then inserting and twisting. Easy peasy. Now with the steering wheel the other way. All right. I'll show you where these hinged panels bind too, because it's curious that they included the hinged panels, but I don't feel like I actually want to fold them up at any point. Certainly not in truck mode or leg mode, where they're certainly not being used. But even in robot mode, I don't think it's the right idea. It's very important to have this hinge facing the not the truck way, because otherwise this slide will bind. There's not enough room for this vertical slide if you have that thing turned around the wrong way. You would quickly discover. All right. Move it out of the way and put the wheel up. And again, if you came in late, or just to re-emphasize, in this direction, if you want to free it up, you just have to kind of go against the wheel. But I'm not going against the center of the wheel. I'm going against the whole wheel. And it pops loose fairly easily. So it's not too bad at all if you have the right leverage. Move this out of the way, move this and this and this. Now here's the bind I was going to talk about. So you might think, oh, I'll fold these up for robot mode. and then they'll go here. But this, go straight. This will actually not quite sit right because this is not sitting flat enough because those flaps are hitting the wheels. So as far as I can tell, in no mode do you bother folding these up. Plus it fills in that gap a little bit better too. So in my humble opinion, you leave it unfolded even in robot mode. Go ahead and get him shelf ready, you know. Because I had him on the shelf, waiting for his team members to show up. I don't know how long that's going to take. What are we going to be in the beginning of next year before we get all 5 pieces? I suppose. I found the finger joints are a little tight, so they're kind of hard to pop. Put his gun in his hand. He's all ready to go. Put the wheel on the back. You can actually mount this thing like in the wheel, the fake wheel hole, if you want to. But it'll also slot into like the tabs there. I think that's a little better. So there we had, I'll keep them on camera for a little bit so YouTube picks the right thumbnail. Yeah, I don't like the way they're doing Menasor. I'd be very curious to see what MMC does with Menasor. But this whole idea where you take like the combined mode, you take the hips and the chest and the thighs, and they're just a part. You know, you're going to combine them. You got 5 robots. You're going to combine them, and you got to bring this big thing in. And then, you know, like as far as I can tell, Road King and Maverick, the Fans Toys bodies, you know, they just turn into cubes, and you put them in the back. And that's certainly how the DX9 Stunicons work. And, you know, they're trying to make them look more like the cartoon, which is almost impossible to do with toys, but I bet MMC could figure it out if they wanted to. But I think MMC is doing Defensor next. So it'll be a while before we get to like Aerial Bots or Stunicons. Yeah, the third-party Menasors, like I've seen the DX9 one transformed into combined mode, and like you're just gonna plug the cars onto it and like turn the big guy into a cube and stick him in the back. I mean, it's not a combiner to my mind. As soon I was kind of tired of combiners, and I saw this set, and I was like, whoa, that's how you do it. You know, what a treat to have like a combiner, and then when you take it apart and turn it into robots, there are no extra parts laying around. I really like that idea. It's not even like OG, because of course the original combiners had all kinds of parts left over, but it's a more pure transformer because the parts are included. I have like the old GoBots Puzzler up on a shelf up there. GoBots Puzzler is super clever because the fists and the feet and the head, the combined head, they were all built in. In fact, one of my favorite combiner bodies from the old Scramble City combiners is Defensor, because he was the only one that came with the head built into the mold. It wasn't like just a separate cap that you put on top of the head. Right? Yeah, I'd love to have a proper Defensor or Superion. I mean, Zeta Superion looks pretty good, but it's that same premise where you have a big chunk of torso that doesn't do anything other than be a chunk of torso. So I would bet that MMC could do a great job with aerial bots. We'll have to see if I can't imagine this won't do well, although people complain that it's like too small, you know, like the combined mode is too small, but I don't care about scale. I just want it to be clever. Sorry, missed your last one. Question, is the R0 Challenger worth it? R0 Challenger. Yeah, GoBots Puzzler was all built in. Are you talking about Unique Toys Challenger? Because that is a really great figure. Very clever. The way it turns inside out, and you know, Takara's great and all, but Takara has a real bad habit of, you know, when you turn the figure around, it's got a big backpack. And Challenger has no backpack. Just like, Peru Kill didn't have a backpack either. I'm going to find you, give me just a second. I brought him out before, but, oh, now you saw me. Oh, poor old thing is very flimsy. Alright. That was my first big reveal. But GoBot's Puzzler, the original, the OG, all built in. Because as you can see, the feet are made out of cars. The hands are built into the car. So when you put it in robot mode, you don't use the hands, but they're there. And the combined head is built into this car. So they can all turn into individual robots. And if you look at one of my older live streams, maybe one of the first ones, you can see me transform them, but I'm not going to do that now. But seriously, Puzzlers in an older live stream, just flip through my older live streams. I don't have that many at this point. And you'll be able to see me transform Puzzler. I'm not going to revisit the same thing. Generations Toys Defensor is cool. I like that the extra feet part fit into like a little trailer for the ambulance, but it's still not as all built in as I would like it. Yeah, yeah, Puzzler has quite a... Yeah, that's one of the problems with some of the combiners is that, like, Menasor, strangely enough, is one of the more realistic ones because the torso is a tractor trailer and the arms and legs are cars. And so it's almost like it all could scale pretty good. Aerial bots, too. You have smaller jets and then a really big, like, Concorde kind of jet. But the Bruticus and Defensor don't quite make sense because the scaling is way off. I mean, Bruticus, one of the limbs is a freaking space shuttle. Like, how far off can that scaling be? But yes, I am doing all of these Combaticons. Hey, you want to see something cool? Check this out. Let me just... There's still dust on the plinth. Look what I got. I have a tiny little bumblebee. And most people may not have Fraudo, so the scales... This is a Voyager scale thing. So he's tiny. Am I getting the Studio Series Devastator? Studio Series Devastator. Yes. In fact, I've already shot some of them for my stop motion, so I'm going to shoot all of those at least for stop motion, if not, necessarily all the Studio Series figures that I get. But yeah, I'm getting Studio Series Devastator as he comes out. I've only transformed this guy to a robot and back once, so I don't have a real clear concept of what should come before what, but I'm just going to fiddle with him while we chat. Well, it's supposed to look like the penny racers that the original Bumblebee was. Like the original mini bots actually had like a place where you could stick a coin, like the old penny racers. Because it was like a wind-up car, and it would go, and then if you put a coin in, it would be heavy enough that it would do a wheelie. Nobody knows what penny racers are. But I'm not quite sure what sequence I'm going to do for this guy. I haven't worked it out. As you can imagine, I've only done it once. But he's a fiddly little thing. There's a lot of like what should come before what going on here. I feel like I could do the feet like right away, which I always like to do, because it's nice to be able to just stand it up. But the feet are fiddly. There's actually room, like this ends up off center. It's really hard to see that. That's too bright. But this ornament for robot mode ends up off center, so there's actually a little tiny bit of room where you can take the Sam Witwicky figure. And I guess since I'm doing it, I may as well do it. I feel like I'm kind of robbing from next week's live stream by doing this. But he's built the same way as the ones that came with MP44. But there's just enough room for him to sit in there and his legs to fit, as long as this thing is off center like that. So that's why it ends up off center, which is kind of an interesting design point. But yeah, I really do think I'll do the legs right away so I can just stand him up. But he's like a tiny little figure. It's going to be really hard to manage his incidental movements. But get the light back on him. But this goes out, and then this turns sideways, and then this closes up. And then, God help us, we turn this into a foot somehow, you know? One way or the other. Move that down. And then move that into place, and that's pretty much the foot. And then we rotate this bumper piece around. It doesn't seem to really go anywhere in particular. I don't know if the instructions really convey this properly, but this folds down and then slides. So it slides flatter. And then you have that ridiculous sort of heel spur that he's got. But they did a pretty good job of kind of flattening the front of the Volkswagen to turn it into his little feet, I guess. It's a weird little toy. It's a weird one. This has to fold at some point. I'm not quite sure when the right time is. But it folds like this. Weird. This flips down and this flips over. This rotates and then flips back up. And now the foot's ready to go. So we get the fender out of the way, one way or the other. Here we go. Put it under there. And then slide that so it sticks out. Kind of collapse the door all the way, fold it down, and flip the window over on his heel. And then you got his feet. So, you know, from here I can kind of transform it. But it's going to move a lot. This thing is... I might have to super glue, tighten a bunch of joints to get it to stop moving incidentally. Maybe like this it won't move as much. But it's very loose. Very easy to get it out of position. A little bit frustrating in that sense. But he's so short, I need to lower my camera back down. There we go. Comments? Yeah, there's things about the bee. I mean, they do a good job of making him look like the sort of chibi, cutie Volkswagen mode. And they do a good job of making it look like the robot, although with the kind of standard Takara, like, we had to get rid of some bulk, so it's in the backpack. Enjoy your backpack. But it's a weird transformation. And it's a bit of a clearance issue there, for example. Trying to free up the torso and the arms. But it's clever. It's got some clever bits. There's a little parking that has to go on there for it to fit. These wheel wells are funny because they're like this normally, but you actually have to kind of collapse it a little bit. And it's like a hinge, but You know, it's one of those ones where I'm going to take a picture of it open and then take a picture of it closed, and then I'm going to put a half-second pause on both pictures so you can tell that it moved. Because there's no, like, stop motioning that. You'd have to move it like a micrometer at a time. It would be very impractical. I suppose I could do it, but little roof panels fold over here. I'm going to separate the arms. I ran into a lot of clearance issues with like the head and the arms and these wheel things, and I haven't found a good way to do it yet. But this head comes on a plate that has to flip up. And I'm still trying to keep the arms out of the way, because these wheels super tight fit and they bind. They run into the arms as you put them in, which is frustrating. As you can see, we're putting the wheels inside his chest, which is kind of cool because they're big fat wheels, and you're like, where could they possibly hide those? And they managed to put them inside the chest, the false chest for that matter. And then we can turn this sucker 180. You know, and then Takara was like, well, we got to get rid of all this other crap now, so let's just pack it onto his back. So there's this bit. It binds up a little bit too. We can slide that in there. And then this bit just kind of folds up and tucks there. And it actually prevents his waist from turning completely. Like if it wasn't for that, like his waist will turn without it. But it actually prevents his waist from having full articulation, which is a bit of a bummer. But I don't know, most people just, when you're done with them, you stick them on the shelf and you forget about it. You know, for a while at least. But this folds down. It's kind of interesting because this off-center bit, this ornament, it rotates through the gap. That'll come across a lot better in stop motion than it just did there. But it's just to put that like spare tire feature on his back. So this just kind of feeds up here. It does kind of lock here. This like a tab here, there's like an off-center slot there. Right there, you can see. So it does go in there, you know. And then we can lower his arms. Arm joints are kind of tight there. It's kind of scary. The shoulder joints have to fold down. And he's derpy as hell. I mean, you almost prefer like the MP, whatever number it was that was the other Bumblebee, because that Bumblebee was at least hewing to that old toy aesthetic, or I don't know what you call it, like the realistic aesthetic. But there he is, and he ends up a lot taller than you would expect him to, given the size of the car. I mean, he is packed into that car, so there's a lot of clever going on to fit all that inside that car. But I'm not going to try to get into this during this live stream, but we also have something else in the future. So maybe we'll do just a little bit of a live unboxing, but I'm not going to try to transform it right now. But we also got Black Arachnia. Ta-da! So that's neat. So you and I, we will all discover together what's in the box. Hopefully it's not Gwyneth Paltrow's head. Oh my god, she comes with a full display stand. Huh. I thought they'd just given up on including those. So that's cool. A lot of weird little things here. Comes with some sort of, I don't know what. I have no idea. I'm sure that's something from the cartoon. My cousin could tell me because he was all into the cartoon. Well, everyone remembers Transformers Generation 2 like it was yesterday. I'm not doing anything interesting. I'm just releasing the tape on the clamshell. That is a lot of tape. I ordered both of these from Amazon Japan, and I'm always amazed how fast. Amazon Japan must have some kind of deal with customs where customs trust them or something, because this stuff shows up fast. And get this stuff out of the way. I guess I'll put that on the floor then. So, Black Arachnia. There she is. She's a wicked looking little spider. But I need a little more time. I showed you Bumblebee because I at least had a rough idea how to do it, but I'm not going to dig out the instructions right now during a live stream and try to figure it out. But I don't know. It's a little wonky, but it's really hard to turn a robot into a spider, so I'm gonna cut him some slack on that account. Comes with that bit. And this bit. Comes with this, which has got a string. That's nice. Comes with this, which is probably the mounting. Damn it. It's just going to fall down in every little crevasse that's in this little clamshell until I pick it out. That's probably the mounting clip for the stand. And it comes with a extra face. And another extra face. And it comes with a whole bunch of spiderweb parts. Let's start with 2. So yeah, you can put these together into a spider web. I'm hoping there's not any sort of parity to this. It's just if they were smart, and usually Takara is, they won't make this something that you can't do unless you do it just so. Yeah, you gotta tuck that in. Yeah. Well, joke's on me. Stupid thing. Let's try again. Shall we? Nah. I swear they're all the same though. Wonder how they... Yeah. It's just wonky. There's no way around it. Or maybe you're just supposed to reverse some of these. Well, you can't. You can't. It's madness. I guess they're kind of tricky that way. But, you know. Where are we? Hello. Can you focus on this? Thank you, camera. Spiderweb. So that's a lot of accessories for a smaller figure. Blank Slate Studios is headed out. You probably have the right idea because the live stream will be winding down shortly. There's the instructions. Well, Shark, my understanding from a recent rumor, sorry about all the noise, I'll just finish this real quick. My understanding is that Hasbro will be doing an MPM ratchet and an MPM, like a new MPM Starscream that's an actual MPM instead of just being a leader class figure like MPM 2 was or whatever. So, that's something. Yeah, what I'm saying is that Hasbro's going to do a movie masterpiece Ratchet, from what I've heard. So we don't need a third-party company to do it. But yeah, Ratchet is too often overlooked. He should be the same size as Ironhide. It was like a weird little rumor, and I don't doubt that it's true, but it was like one of those reports where someone saw something in a computer system or something. I'll see if I can find the article. Huh. I mean, that kind of puts a nail. Like, look at this. This is a picture from the 2000, from June 28th. June 28th. So if you hadn't heard about this, apparently it's been a thing for a while. But this is NPM 10. So apparently that's totally a thing. I just saw a listing that said that they were going to do an NPM Starscream and an NPM Ratchet, but I don't know. I'd say it was like a mock-up and not real, but I mean the arms look totally different than any other figure that's ever come out, like the forearms. And I think that's legit. So we're totally getting an NPM Ratchet. Don't need to hassle a third-party company to do it. I think it's past the prototype phase. I mean, that's a picture of a toy. I mean, it might be a painted prototype at that point, but there's, at the very least, a mock-up of the box, which is, you know, something. Oh, the red Optimus Primal? Yeah, that was kind of cool. Well, we're winding down. If you have any final questions or comments, I will relate them to the audio listening audience. But other than that, I'm going to be signing off in 3 minutes. So get your questions and comments in quick, because in 3 minutes it's all over. And then, of course, next week I'll go into a little more detail on what I've worked out for him after the stop motion video comes out. He's not too bad. I was worried I'd get him into robot mode and not be able to get him back into car mode, but it's Takara, so it's pretty logical. Oh, you mean his NPMs? My goodness. I don't know that they will. I think that Bombus B, or whatever they call themselves now, Devil something. I think they've really jumped into a niche there of like masterpiece style Constructicons, because I don't see Takara bothering with it. Thanks, Darth. Peace out. Have a good day. All right. Well, cool. We'll be discussing Bumblebee and maybe a little Black Arachnia, but I don't want to give away all my secrets before I do the stop motion. Maybe that Siege Astro Train will come out and I can show that to you. I keep wondering when it's going to show up. People have seen them in like comic stores and stuff, but nobody actually has it yet. Yeah, Devil Savior. Thank you, Shark. That's the name of that company that's doing a masterpiece Devastator, movie Devastator. They look cool. I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to bother with it. It's a lot of cost for maybe not a lot of return. I mean, it looks cool. I might change my tune if I see a video of how they transform and it becomes clear to me that it's like well designed. But right now, just looking at those pictures in the two different modes, there's not really a good way to tell whether it's well designed or not. I have no idea what that's supposed to be. Apparently she had some kind of mind control, something or other. See you later, Shark. He's not bad. I mean, he's got those big heels sticking out there. They had to hide that stuff somewhere. But he really presents well from the front, which is the main thing. But the backpack is a little big. But from most partial angles, it doesn't look quite as bad. But from a direct side view, it's like, ooh, there's a lot of heel and there's a lot of backpack. But the way he packs up is pretty clever. It's enjoyable. We're at the end of the stream now. Everyone have a good day and a good week. Good Thanksgiving tomorrow for those of you that have Thanksgiving. And we will see you next week for the live stream. And Sunday we'll have MP45 transform properly. I'll try to find all the ways to avoid parts rubbing. It'll be tricky because it's not easy, that one. Good night. Good luck.